Well, happy Thanksgiving. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Did you eat a lot?
No. I ate pretty much nothing because
Don't go into detail.
Okay, well, on to the lesson. On to the lesson. I have some pictures that I want you guys to look at and hold. This is what we call a bighorn sheep. Now look at those. And tell me, what do you know first about them?
their horns are big.
Their horns are big.
They're standing on rocks.
They're standing on rocks too. See, I knew I had theologians in residence here. You picked up on exactly. Why don't you show
They have 4 legs.
show the audience, the congregation, those pictures. Hold them up so they can see them. Big horned sheep, and when they get grown, they're, particularly the rams, the males, their horns curl in towards, and sometimes you'll see them in the wild fighting. They jump up in the air and put their horns together. But those horns are heavy. How much do you think those horns weigh?
A lot.
A lot. Try on average about 30 pounds each. A whole set of horns. 30, it adds 30 pounds to your weight. Can you imagine like walking around with like a 30-pound weight on your head?
Well, your head actually, a fully grown human head weighs more than 30 pounds.
I'm talking in addition to your head. If you were to add an extra 30 pounds.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
And Alan pointed out that the ram is standing on rocks. This is very much like the country in Israel and in the Middle East where Jesus was born and grew up, and where the nation of Israel lived for centuries. At this time of year, we're going to learn a little bit more about Advent in Sunday school. But for generations, hundreds, thousands of years, the people of Israel were waiting on what they called Messiah. And all Messiah means, that word simply means the blessed one, the sacred one, the deliverer. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, exactly. You know the song, right? They were oppressed and conquered by a lot of different nations. The Assyrians, the Hittites, the Jebusites, you name it, the people of Israel were conquered. So they thought that this deliverer was going to be like an army general who would come in and help their armies win the wars. Just a second. Thought they would come in and win the wars. So for many years, they had prophets who would try to comfort them in the time of war and say, don't forget, God is going to send us someone who's going to just take us out of all this bondage and war, and we're going to live in our homeland again. We're going to be in Israel, and we're going to be in charge of our own country again. You have a comment to make or a question?
I heard you say Assyrians, and that was probably the only one that I actually knew.
Assyrians, not Syrians.
No, I know
Assyrians.
Assyrians.
Okay, yes. They're an ancient people who lived a little north of where Israel is now. But here's the thing. The prophet would always tell them, don't worry, have hope, like our candle today. And he would tell them different attributes, different things that they should know about the deliverer. And one of the things that they were told about the deliverer is that he would help them to walk in God's paths. Now the cool thing about these bighorn sheep is that they go high up in the mountain in the summer because it's cool. And then in the winter, they come down into the valley so that they can find food. Now, their hooves, they're climbing up on rocks. Their hooves are split so that there are 2 hard parts on the outside and a soft kind of fleshy part in the middle. Why do you think their hooves are hard on the outside and soft in the middle?
To help them climb?
To help them climb so that they can kind of hang on to the little jagged edges of the rocks. But for generations, these sheep climb the same path up, the same path down. The next generation climbs the same path up, the same path down. They have learned over time that if they don't follow that same path, what do you think might happen on the rocks? Bad things will happen. It's treacherous, it's rocky. If they don't pay attention to the path that has been proven over time, they could find themselves lost, they could find themselves falling off. And remember, they're moving up and down with their little families. So they learn over time that the wise thing to do is to stay on this path that people have learned for generations.
Well, I don't know who said it, but they said that even if there is a right way to go, don't go that way, make a new path.
Make a new path. That might be true in some situations. But what the prophet is telling us in Isaiah 2, he says the deliverer will make it easier for us to walk in the Lord's path. There are some things, even about how we do church, that may change over time, but there are things that we learn from generation to generation about who God is and about who Jesus is that simply do not change because there are certain things about Jesus that don't change. What have you learned recently about Jesus? Things. Like what?
Most of the things I've learned, I don't want to say. I'm not really learned, but
He's mentioned the Bible.
He's mentioned in the Bible.
that's not really recent.
No, not recently. What do you know? What do you think? Tell me what you know about
He
Jesus.
came to earth.
He came to earth. Good. That part of the story is not going to change, people.
He's God's son.
He's God's son. That part of the story is not going to change.
He was born on Christmas.
Well, Christmas is when we celebrate his birth. We're not so sure he was born on December 25th, but that's the day we celebrate his birth.
He rose from the dead on Easter.
He rose from the dead on Easter. That's one of the most important things about being a Christian. That's what makes us different from everybody else. We believe that Jesus rose again. So, do you think you need help following this path of good?
He looked like this when he was born.
Yeah, baby. That's another lesson for another time. So, what do you think you would need to help you stay on God's path? What do you think will help you continue to do things the way God wants you to do them? Are you learning things? What's one thing that we study in church that maybe has some help for us?
God.
God,
The disciples.
the disciples, it's a book that we read.
The
The Bible. Excellent. God has given us some things to help us learn how to stay on the right path. It's a very different thing to try new things, but to stay on God's path is really important. What might happen if we don't do things God's way?
We get sad.
You can be sad.
Find new ways to do things.
You can find new ways to do things, but what we do and how we do them, we must always be sure that we're doing them according to how God would want us to do them. In love, right? With kindness and respect.
So same old.
Not necessarily same old, but there are certain things that are simply important for us as Christians. We must always be loving. We must always be respectful. We must always be kind. We must always help other people. Those things are part of God's path. Those things will never change. Generation after generation after generation of people, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents have been telling children to be kind, loving, helpful, respectful. Yes.
I know for a fact that it's not just Christians that have to be nice.
That's absolutely true. Everybody should be nice. But the reason that we are nice is because we believe in Jesus, and Jesus has taught us some very important things. So we could be good and belong to, like, I don't know, the Kiwanis Club, which is a group of people who help people in the community. There's lots of projects we could do to be nice to people. But because we believe in Jesus, we have a particular responsibility to follow Jesus' example, to be kind and loving, right? So because we're Christians, we're not the only good people, but it's because we're Christians that we are asked to do things in a special way, because Jesus taught us that that was important. And throughout time, I bet, years from now, when you all have children, you'll be telling your children, be kind, be loving, be helpful, help other people, right? It's God's path. You follow the same path up, you follow the same path down, because God has told us. Now, you might decide to wear a red hat or a purple hat while you're doing it, or you might decide to play guitar and have drums instead of an organ, but you're going to do the same things up, the same things down, because God has called us to be faithful to what He wants us to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Seriously?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, it's time to go to your Sunday school. Thank you so much.